The stars had never looked so cold. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood at the observation window of Horizon's Edge, Earth's largest orbital defense station. Behind him, alarms blinked red across every screen. In front of him, 3,000 enemy warships filled the darkness of space like a swarm of metal insects. The Kelthari Dominion had arrived. Tae-ho had spent 30 years in the military. He had seen battles. He had lost friends. He had made hard choices that still kept him awake at night. But nothing had prepared him for this moment. The Kelthari were not just another enemy. They were conquerors who had crushed 47 different species across the galaxy. They had never lost a war. They had never retreated. And now they wanted Earth. His communicator buzzed. "Admiral, the enemy commander is broadcasting on all channels. He wants to speak with our leadership." Tae-ho took a deep breath. Put him through to the main screen. The face that appeared was not human. Vorith Prime, Supreme Commander of the Kelthari Dominion, had gray skin stretched tight over sharp bones. His eyes were yellow and held no warmth. When he smiled, rows of small pointed teeth showed behind thin lips. "Humans of Earth," Vorith Prime said. His voice was smooth like oil on water. "I am Vorith Prime. I speak for the Dominion. You have 72 hours to surrender your planet, your resources, and your people to our rule. If you obey, some of you will be allowed to live as servants. If you refuse, we will burn your world to ash and scatter your bones across the void." The transmission ended. Tae-ho did not move for a long moment. Then he turned and walked toward the command center, where his officers waited. The room was filled with the best military minds Earth had to offer. Yoon Han-ah, Chief Strategic Officer, stood at the central table with maps and data floating in holographic displays around her. Captain Kang Do-yun sat nearby, his jaw tight with anger. Communications Director Shin The-rin was already monitoring enemy frequencies. And in the corner, Engineer Cho Won-sik looked at his tablet with troubled eyes. 3,000 ships, Hana said as Tae-ho entered. "Our entire defense fleet is 400. Even with our orbital weapons, we cannot win a straight fight. What about allies?" Do-yun asked. "The Neutral Council? Other species?" Hana shook her head. "No one will help us. The Kelthari have made it clear that any species that aids Earth will be their next target. Everyone is too afraid. So we surrender?" Do-yun slammed his fist on the table. "We let them make us slaves?" "No," Tae-ho said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "We do not surrender. But we also do not throw our people into a fight we cannot win." He walked to the center of the room and looked at each of his officers. These were good people. Brave people. They deserved to know the truth. 20 years ago, Tae-ho began. When humanity first encountered alien life, our scientists made a discovery. They found a way to generate energy at a level that should not be possible. Energy so powerful that it could tear apart matter at the smallest level. Not destroy it, erase it. Make it as if it never existed. The room was silent. We called it the Erasure Protocol. A weapon so terrible that the leaders of Earth agreed it should never be used. It was locked away, hidden. Only 3 people in all of humanity knew where it was. He paused. "I am one of those 3. Won-sik looked up from his tablet. "Admiral, if such a weapon exists, why have we never used it? Why keep it secret?" "Because it is not a weapon of war," Tae-ho said. "It is a weapon of ending. Once fired, there is no defense, no survival. Everything in its path simply stops existing. We kept it hidden because we hoped we would never need it, because using it makes us no better than the monsters we fight." Hana stepped forward. "Sir, are you saying we should use this weapon against the Kelthari?" Tae-ho was quiet for a long moment. "I am saying we should give them a choice. The Kelthari, have conquered 47 species because those species were afraid. They surrendered or they fought and lost. But no one has ever warned them. No one has ever shown them what happens when they push too far. He turned to the Rin. I want you to prepare a broadcast. Not just to Vareth Prime, to every ship in that fleet. To every soldier. I want them all to hear what I have to say. What message, Admiral? The Rin asked. Tay-Ho looked out the window at the distant lights of the enemy fleet. A warning. One warning. One chance to leave. That is more than they have ever given anyone else. The next 6 hours were filled with activity. One Sikh led a team to a hidden facility deep beneath Earth's surface, where the Erasure Protocol had waited in silence for 2 decades. Hana calculated trajectories and scenarios, looking for any outcome where the weapon would not be needed. Du Yung prepared his squadron for a defensive position, knowing they might have to buy time with their lives, and Teho wrote his message. When everything was ready, the Rin opened a channel to the entire Kalthari fleet. Every ship, every screen, every soldier. They would all hear this. Toho stood before the camera. His uniform was neat. His face was calm, but his eyes held something that had made stronger men look away. I am Admiral Park Tai-Ho of the United Earth Defense Force. I speak to every member of the Kalthari Dominion. Your commander has demanded our surrender. He has threatened to destroy our world and kill our people. I have a different offer. He paused, letting his words sink in. Leave. Turn your ships around and go back to your space. Do this, and there will be no war. Do this, and you will all live to see your homes again. This is not a request. This is not desperation. This is mercy. The only mercy you will receive. His voice grew harder. You came here because you believe humans are weak. You believe we will break like the others. You are wrong. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not beg. And humanity does not make empty threats. He leaned closer to the camera. If you stay, if you advance, if you force us to fight, we will not simply defeat you. We will erase you. Every ship, every weapon, every trace that you were ever here. Your children will grow up without fathers. Your families will never know what happened to you. You will become nothing. The final words came like stones dropping into still water. You came seeking conquest. We offer you one chance to leave. Refuse, and you will learn why humans do not negotiate with extinction. You have 48 hours. Use them wisely. The transmission ended. In the command center, no one spoke. The weight of what had just happened pressed down on them all. Hana was the first to break the silence. Do you think they will listen? Teho watched the enemy fleet through the window. Not a single ship had moved. No, he said quietly. I do not think they will. But when this is over, when historians ask what happened here, they will know the truth. We gave them every chance. We warned them, and they chose their own fate. The waiting began. On the command deck of the Dominion's Wrath, Vareth Prime watched the human's message for the 3rd time. His officers stood around him in uncomfortable silence. No one dared to speak first. Then Vareth Prime began to laugh. It started as a low chuckle and grew into a roar that echoed through the metal halls. His officers, relieved, joined in with nervous laughter of their own. Erase us? Vareth Prime wiped a tear from his yellow eye. This tiny species threatens to erase the Kalthari Dominion? We who have crushed empires. We who have broken worlds. He waved his hand at the screen. Play it again. Play it for the entire fleet. Let every soldier see what the humans call a warning. Let them laugh as I laugh. Within minutes, Admiral Park Tai-Ho's message was playing on every ship in the Kalthari Armada. Soldiers gathered in mess halls and barracks to watch. Most of them laughed too. The humans were small. Their fleet was tiny. What could they possibly do against 3,000 warships? But not everyone laughed. Sindara, second commander of the invasion fleet, stood apart from the others. She was younger than most officers of her rank, with dark gray skin and eyes that missed nothing. She had risen through the military not through brutality, but through careful observation. And right now, she was observing something that troubled her. The human admiral had not looked afraid in her years of service. Sindara had watched dozens of species receive their ultimatums from Worth Prime. She had seen terror in their eyes. She had seen desperation. She had seen false courage that crumbled the moment real pressure was applied. But this human had looked at the camera with calm certainty, like a person who knew exactly what would happen next. She walked to Worth Prime's side and bowed her head respectfully. "Supreme Commander, may I speak?" Worth Prime was still smiling. "What is it, Sindara?" "The human's message concerns me." "Concerns you?" His smile faded slightly. "You think we should fear these creatures?" "I think we should consider why they are not afraid of us." Sindara chose her words carefully. "We have never encountered a species that responded to our ultimatum with threats of their own. Not once in our history. Either they have a weapon we do not know about, or they are insane. Either possibility deserves investigation." Worth Prime stared at her for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "You are young, Sindara. You have not learned the truth about prey. When an animal is cornered, it will sometimes bare its teeth. It will growl and snap. But this is not strength. It is the final desperate act of a creature that knows it is about to die." He put a hand on her shoulder. "The humans are bluffing. They have nothing. And in 48 hours, they will kneel before us or burn." Sindara bowed again. "As you say, Supreme Commander." But as she walked away, she could not shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. 12 hours passed. Then 24. The human deadline was now only 24 hours away. Worth Prime, impatient and eager to show his strength, ordered the fleet to begin its advance. Not at full speed. Just a slow, deliberate movement toward Earth, a reminder to the humans of what was coming. As the Kalthari fleet moved forward, a new ship appeared at the edge of the battle zone. It was small and white and carried no weapons. Elder Malos of the Galactic Neutral Council had arrived. The Elder was ancient, even by the long-lived standards of his species. His skin was pale blue, and his forearms were folded in the traditional pose of a mediator. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries. "Worth Prime," he said through the communication channel, "I have come to urge you to reconsider. The humans are not what you think they are." Worth Prime sneered at the screen. "And what would you know about humans, Elder? Your council has done nothing but watch from a distance while real civilizations build empires. We watch because watching teaches us things that fighting does not." Malos leaned forward. "I have studied humanity for decades. They are strange creatures. They fight among themselves constantly, yet unite instantly against outside threats. They are short-lived, yet plan for generations ahead. And they have a quality that no other species in this galaxy possesses." "And what quality is that?" "When pushed too far, they do not simply fight back. They make certain the threat can never return. They call it different things. Deterrence, mutually assured destruction. But the meaning is the same." The Elder's voice dropped low. "They will destroy themselves before they allow you to conquer them. And they will take you with them." Worth Prime laughed again, but this time it sounded forced. "Fairy tales. Stories to frighten children. I have seen their history," Milo said. "I have seen what they did to their own kind when threatened. Cities erased in single moments. Weapons that poisoned the land for generations. They stopped only because they feared what they had become." His forearms spread wide. Do not test them, Varth Prime, for your own sake, for the sake of your soldiers. Turn back. The Supreme Commander cut the transmission without another word. On Earth, Admiral Park Taiho received reports of the fleet's movement. The Kelthari were coming. His warning had not been enough. How long until they reach weapons range? He asked. Hana checked her calculations. At their current speed, 40 hours. But they could accelerate at any moment. Taiho nodded slowly. Is the Erasure protocol ready? From the hidden facility below Earth's surface, 1-6 voice came through the speaker. Ready, Admiral. But I have to ask one more time. Are you sure about this? No, Taiho admitted. I am not sure about anything anymore. But I know what happens if we do nothing. I have read the reports from the conquered worlds. I have seen what the Kelthari do to species that surrender. He closed his eyes. Death is better. At least death is quick. Captain De Yun stepped forward. Sir, let me take my squadron out. Not to fight, just to deliver one more warning. Face to face. Maybe if they see human ships, see that we are real, they will understand. You would be captured or killed, Hana said. 50 ships against 3,000. I know. Du Yun's voice was steady. But someone has to try. Someone has to look them in the eyes and tell them the truth. If they still choose to come after that, then at least we know we did everything we could. Taiho looked at the young captain. Du Yun was brave. Perhaps too brave. But he was also right. Take your squadron, the Admiral said. Broadcast on all frequencies as you approach. Tell them this is their last mercy. And Du Yun, he paused. Come back alive if you can. Du Yun saluted and ran for the hangar. An hour later, 50 human ships flew toward the Kelthari armada. They were tiny compared to the enemy vessels, like insects approaching giants. But from those tiny ships, a message played on repeat. This is Captain Kan Du Yun of the United Earth Defense Force. We come in peace, but we are prepared for war. Turn back now. This is your final warning. Turn back and live. Advance and face erasure. The choice is yours. The Kelthari response was immediate and brutal. 200 enemy ships broke formation and swarmed the human squadron. Weapons fire lit up the darkness. Human ships exploded one after another. In less than 10 minutes, 30 vessels were destroyed. The rest, including De Yun's ship, were captured with gravity nets and pulled into the Kelthari fleet on the Dominion's wrath. Varth Prime watched with satisfaction as human prisoners were dragged from their vessels. He gave orders for the squadron leader to be brought before him personally. Du Yun was thrown to the floor of the command deck. His uniform was torn. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye. But when he looked up at Varth Prime, he was smiling. Why do you smile, human? Varth Prime demanded. You have lost. Your ships are destroyed. Your friends are dead or captured. Your world will follow. Du Yun pushed himself up to his knees. I smile because you had your chance. We came to you. We begged you to leave. We offered you mercy. Mercy? Varth Prime grabbed Du Yun by the throat and lifted him off the ground. You dare speak of mercy? I will show you what the Dominion does to creatures who threaten us. Even as the air was squeezed from his lungs, Du Yun kept smiling. You should have listened, he gasped. Now it is too late for your fleet. Varth Prime threw him to the ground. Take him to the cells. I want him alive when we reach Earth. I want him to watch his world die. As guards dragged Du Yun away, Sindara stared at the human with growing unease. He had been captured. He was wounded. He was completely at their mercy. And yet he looked at them like they were already dead. What did the humans know that the Kelthari did not? The cell was cold and dark, but Du Yun did not feel the cold. He sat against the metal wall with his eyes closed, counting his heartbeats. Waiting dot above him, somewhere on the command deck, Fourth Prime was probably celebrating. The Supreme Commander thought he had won a great victory by capturing 50 small human ships. He did not understand that those ships were never meant to win. They were meant to deliver a message. And they had. The cell door opened. Light flooded in, and Du-Yun squinted against it. A figure stood in the doorway. Not a guard. The gray skin was darker, the posture different. It was the second commander, Sindara. She stepped inside and let the door close behind her. For a long moment, she just looked at him. "You confuse me, human," she finally said. Du-Yun opened his eyes fully. "How so?" "You came to us with 50 ships. 50 against 3,000. You knew you would lose. You knew many of your people would die." She crouched down to his level. "Why? Because someone had to try. Try what? To defeat us? That is impossible. No." Du-Yun shook his head slowly. "To save you." Sindara stared at him. "Save us? You speak in riddles. Do I?" Du-Yun leaned forward. "Let me ask you something. In all the wars your people have fought, in all the species you have conquered, has anyone ever warned you? Has anyone ever come to you with open hands and begged you to turn back?" The second commander was silent. "I will tell you the answer," Du-Yun continued. "No, they never have. Because every species you have faced was afraid of you. They either surrendered or fought in desperation. But they never thought they could truly hurt you. They never believed they had the power to make you regret your choices." He held her gaze with steady eyes. "Humans are different. We have that power. And we tried to warn you. We tried to give you a chance to live. That is not the action of a weak species, Second Commander. That is the action of a species that knows exactly what it is capable of and wishes it did not have to prove it." Sindara stood up abruptly. She turned away from him, facing the wall. Du-Yun could see her shoulders tense under her uniform. "You speak of a weapon," she said quietly. "A weapon that can destroy our fleet. If such a thing existed, you would have used it already. Would we?" Du-Yun's voice was soft. "Using it means killing thousands, maybe millions. It means becoming the monsters we fight against. We did not want that. We still do not want that. But if your Supreme Commander forces our hand, we will do what must be done." "Bluffing." Sindara turned back to face him. "You are bluffing? Then why you look so worried?" Before she could answer, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside the cell. Sindara pressed her communicator. "Report. What is happening?" A panicked voice answered. "Second Commander, we are detecting massive energy buildup at the human defense station. The readings are unlike anything we have ever seen." Sindara's face went pale. She looked at Du-Yun one more time, then ran from the cell. On Earth, Admiral Park Tae-ho stood in the command center of Horizon's Edge. Every screen showed the same thing. The Kelthari fleet was still advancing. His warning had not worked. Du-Yun's sacrifice had not worked. Fourth Prime would rather die than admit he was wrong. "Admiral," Mana said. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. "The fleet will reach weapons range in 6 hours. If we are going to act, it must be soon." Tae-ho nodded. "Open a channel. All frequencies. I want every ship in that fleet to hear this." The Rin activated the broadcast system. "Channel open, Admiral." Tae-ho spoke clearly and slowly. "This is Admiral Park Tae-ho. I am addressing every soldier in the Kelthari fleet. Your commander has ignored our warnings. He believes we are bluffing. He's wrong." He paused, letting the words settle. "In 5 minutes, we will demonstrate what happens to those who threaten humanity. We will fire a weapon at the rear section of your fleet." 600 ships. 200,000 soldiers. They will cease to exist. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Erased. As if they were never born. Across the Kelthari Armada, soldiers stopped what they were doing. Commanders looked at each other with uncertainty. This was not how prey was supposed to behave. This is your final chance, Tejo continued. Any ship that breaks formation and retreats in the next 5 minutes will be spared. Any ship that stays will share the fate of the others. I take no pleasure in this. I wish there was another way. But you have left us no choice. He took a breath. May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on you. We will not. The transmission ended. On the Dominion's wrath, Varth Prime slammed his fist against his command chair. Lies, more lies and tricks. No weapon can do what they describe. Supreme Commander, one of his officers said nervously, several ships in the rear formation are requesting permission to withdraw. Their crews are frightened. Permission denied. Any ship that breaks formation will be destroyed by my order. We do not retreat from bluffs. Sindara watched from the side of the room. She wanted to speak. She wanted to beg Vorith Prime to listen. But she knew it would do no good. His pride was too great. His belief in Kelthari superiority was too strong. So she did the only thing she could do. She walked quietly to her personal console and began recording everything. The readings, the conversations, the coordinates. If the humans were telling the truth, someone had to survive to tell the Kelthari homeworld what happened. Someone had to make sure this mistake was never repeated. 5 minutes passed. On Horizon's edge, one Sikh's voice came through the speaker. Erasure Protocol is charged and ready, Admiral. Targeting rear fleet formation. 612 ships confirmed. Tejo closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, there was no hesitation. Fire. Deep beneath Earth's surface, machines that had waited 20 years hummed to life. Energy gathered, focused, and released in a beam of pure white light. It crossed the distance between Earth and the Kelthari, fleet in less than a second. The rear formation never saw it coming. One moment, 612 warships hung in space. The next moment, there was nothing. No explosions. No debris. No escape pods tumbling through the void. Just empty space where an armada had been. 200,000 Kelthari soldiers vanished as if they had never existed. Across the remaining fleet, silence fell. Complete, absolute silence. Officers stared at their screens, unable to process what they had witnessed. Soldiers dropped their weapons and stood frozen. On the Dominion's wrath, Vorith Prime gripped his command chair with both hands. His yellow eyes were wide. His mouth hung open. For the first time in his life, he had no words. Sindara's recording captured everything. The moment of impact. The disappearance. The empty void. She watched her own hands shake as she worked the controls. Supreme Commander, an officer whispered. What do we do? Vorith Prime did not answer. He was staring at the space where 600 ships had been. Ships filled with soldiers who had trusted him. Soldiers with families. With futures. Gone. Elder Malos appeared on the communication screen. His ancient face was filled with sorrow, not triumph. I warned you, Vorith Prime. I begged you to listen. The humans do not threaten. They warn, once, and then they act. It is not possible, Vorith Prime whispered. No weapon can do this. It is not possible, and yet it happened. The elder's voice was heavy. Now you must choose. Retreat, and lose only your pride. Advance, and lose everything. In his cell, De Yun felt the ship shudder. He heard distant screams and shouts. He did not know exactly what had happened, but he knew the demonstration had been given. The Kelthari had seen what humanity could do. Now the question was whether they would learn from it. The cell door burst open. Guards grabbed Du Yun and dragged him toward the command deck. When he arrived, he saw chaos. Officers were shouting. Screens were flickering. And in the center of it all, Varith Prime stood like a statue, staring at nothing. Du Yun was thrown at the Supreme Commander's feet. "What did you do?" Varith Prime's voice was barely a whisper. "What did your people do?" Du Yun looked up at him. There was no satisfaction in his eyes, no triumph, only sadness. "We gave you a choice," he said quietly. "You made the wrong one. Now 200,000 of your soldiers are gone. Not dead, gone, erased from existence. Their families will never know what happened to them. There will be no bodies to bury, no graves to visit." He slowly stood up, ignoring the guards around him. "But it does not have to end here. Turn your fleet around. Go home. Tell your people what happened and never come back. Do this, and no more of your soldiers have to disappear." For a moment, just a moment, Du Yun thought he saw fear in Varith Prime's eyes. Real fear. The fear of a being who had finally met something stronger than himself. Then the moment passed. Varith Prime straightened his back. He lifted his chin. And he spoke words that would doom his fleet. "All ships, advance to attack speed. We will destroy Earth or die trying." Du Yun closed his eyes. He had tried. He had given them every chance. And they had chosen oblivion. "I am sorry," he whispered. But he was not speaking to the Kelthari. He was apologizing to his own people for what they would have to do next. The order echoed across what remained of the Kelthari fleet. 2,400 ships began to accelerate toward Earth. Their engines burned bright against the darkness of space. On every vessel, soldiers prepared for battle, even as fear gripped their hearts. They had seen 600 ships vanish. They had watched 200,000 of their brothers and sisters simply stop existing. And now their Supreme Commander was ordering them to fly straight into the weapon that had done it. On the Dominion's wrath, Sindara stood at her station and watched the fleet move forward. Her recording device was still running, capturing everything. She knew she might die in the next few hours. But she also knew that if she survived, this record would be the most important thing in Kelthari history. Varith Prime paced the command deck like a caged animal. His yellow eyes darted from screen to screen, searching for something that would prove the human weapon was limited. A weakness, a flaw, anything. "Run the analysis again," he ordered. "There must be something. No weapon is perfect." "Supreme Commander," his chief scientist said nervously, "we have run the analysis 17 times. The energy readings are beyond our understanding. We do not know how they did it. We do not know how to defend against it. Then we overwhelmed them." Varith Prime shouted. "They cannot destroy all of us at once. We charge forward, we spread out, we attack from every direction." Sindara stepped forward. "Supreme Commander, permission to speak." Varith Prime turned to her with dangerous eyes. "What?" "The humans gave us a warning before the demonstration. They targeted only the rear formation. They showed restraint. What if they are still showing restraint? What if they are waiting to see if we will retreat?" "Retreat?" Varith Prime's voice was low and cold. "You want me to run from these creatures? To return to our homeworld in shame? To tell our people that the mighty Kelthari Dominion was scared away by a single weapon?" "I want you to bring our soldiers home alive," Sindara said quietly. "I want their children to see their parents again. I want their partners to hold them again. Is pride worth more than 2 million lives?" For a moment, the command deck was silent. Every officer held their breath. Then Varith Prime laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "You are weak, Sindara. Weak like all who fear death. We are Kelthari. We do not run. We do not surrender. We conquer or we die. That is our way." That is our way. That has always been our way. He turned to his communications officer. Send the message to the human station. Tell them we are coming. Tell them their little trick has only made us angry. Tell them that when we reach Earth, we will burn every city, kill every man, woman, and child, and salt the ground so nothing ever grows again. The message was sent on Horizon's edge. Admiral Park Tae-ho received it in silence. Hana stood beside him, her face pale. They are not stopping, she said. After everything we showed them, they're still coming. Tae-ho nodded slowly. I know. What do we do? The Admiral looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 2,400 ships full of living beings were racing toward their deaths. They had families, dreams, fears. They were not monsters, not really. They were soldiers following orders from a commander who refused to admit he was wrong, but they were still coming to destroy humanity. And Tae-ho could not allow that. The Rin, he said quietly. One last broadcast. Make sure it reaches every ship. The Rin nodded and opened the channel. Tae-ho spoke slowly, each word heavy with grief. This is Admiral Park Tae-ho. I am speaking to every soldier in the Kelthari fleet. Your commander has chosen to continue his attack. He has condemned you to death. I want you to understand that this is not what we wanted. We tried to save you. We warned you. We demonstrated our power and begged you to leave. His voice cracked slightly. But you are still coming. And so we must act. In 10 minutes, we will fire our weapon at full power. It will sweep through your entire fleet. No ship will survive. No soldier will escape. You will all be erased. He paused, struggling to control his emotions. If any of you wish to live, turn your ships around now. Break formation. Run. We will not fire on retreating vessels. This is your last chance. Your only chance. Please, do not make us do this. The broadcast ended. In the Kelthari fleet, panic began to spread. Some captains, brave enough to defy orders, started turning their ships. But Vorath Prime was watching. Any ship that broke formation was immediately targeted by loyal vessels. Explosions lit up the fleet as Kelthari killed Kelthari. No one retreats. Vorath Prime screamed. We die as warriors, or we live as conquerors. There is no other way. Sindara watched the chaos with horror. She had served the Dominion her entire life. She had believed in its strength, its purpose, its destiny. But this was not strength. This was madness. She walked quietly to her console and began entering commands. Emergency escape protocols. Navigation to the edge of the battle zone. She was not the only one. On 11 other ships, officers and captains who had seen enough made the same choice. On Earth, one Sikh reported from the underground facility. Full power charge complete. Targeting array locked on the enemy fleet. 2,388 ships confirmed. Hana turned to Tae-ho. Admiral, some ships are breaking away. 12 vessels heading away from the battle zone. Let them go, Tae-ho said. They chose to live. We will honor that choice. He walked to the command console. The firing control waited for his authorization. One button. One action. And over 2 million lives would end. His hand hovered over the control. Admiral, the Rin said softly, you do not have to be the one to do this. Someone else can give the order. Tae-ho shook his head. No, I asked them to come here. I warned them. I made the choice to use this weapon. The responsibility is mine. He thought of the Kelthari soldiers in those ships. Young ones, just starting their careers. Old ones, counting the days until they could go home. They had done terrible things, but they were still living beings. They still felt fear and hope and love, and he was about to erase them all. I am sorry, he whispered. Then he pressed the button. The Erasure protocol fired at full power. A wave of white light swept through space like the hand of an angry god. It moved faster than thought, faster than light, faster than anything the Kelthori had ever known. Ship after ship vanished. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone. The wave did not discriminate. Battleships and cruisers, transports and fighters, command vessels and supply ships. All of them ceased to exist in the same instant. The silence that followed was absolute. Where 2,400 warships had been, there was now nothing but empty space. Not a single piece of debris, not a single distress signal, not a single survivor. On the Dominion's wrath, Vareth Prime had one moment of clarity before the wave reached him. One moment to understand that his pride had killed his fleet. One moment to realize that the humans had not been bluffing. Then he was gone. In her escaping ship, Sindara watched through the rear viewport. She saw the wave pass through the space behind her. She saw the fleet disappear. She saw the void where millions of her people had been. And she wept. On the captured human vessel, still drifting at the edge of the battle zone, Duyun felt the ship shudder as the wave passed nearby. Guards around him simply vanished. The gravity nets holding the ship released. Alarms began to sound, then fell silent. He walked slowly to the bridge. Every Kelthari on the ship was gone. He was alone. Through the viewport, he could see the empty space where the Armada had been. He thought about the soldiers he had tried to warn, the officers who had laughed at his message, the Supreme Commander who had been so certain of victory. All gone. He activated the ship's communication system. Horizon's Edge, this is Captain Kang Du-young. I am alive. The Kelthari fleet has been eliminated. Please send a rescue team. A long pause. Then the Rin's voice, thick with emotion. Du-young, you are alive. We thought you were gone with the rest of them. I was on a captured vessel at the edge of the formation. The wave missed me. He took a deep breath. It is over, is it not? It is finally over. Yes, the Rin said. It is over. In the command center of Horizon's Edge, Admiral Park Tai-ho stood at the window, staring at the empty space where 3,000 ships had begun the day. His hands were steady, but his eyes were wet. Ha-dash now approached him carefully. Admiral, we saved Earth. We saved humanity. You should be proud. Tai-ho did not turn around. Proud? I just erased over 2 million living beings. I made them disappear as if they never existed. Their families will never know what happened to them. There will be no graves, no memorials, no closure. He finally turned to face her. I did what had to be done, but I will never be proud of it. He walked toward the exit, then paused. May no one ever force us to do this again. Then he was gone, leaving Hana alone with the weight of victory that felt too much like defeat. 3 months had passed since the day the Kelthari fleet disappeared. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. Schools reopened. Markets filled with people again. Children played in parks, laughing and running, unaware of how close they had come to extinction. But for those who knew the truth, nothing would ever be the same. Admiral Park Tai-ho stood in his office, looking at a holographic map of the galaxy. News of the battle had spread to every corner of known space. Species that had never heard of humanity were now discussing the small blue planet that had erased an entire armada. The reactions were mixed. Some called humans heroes. Others called them monsters. Most simply called them dangerous. A knock came at the door. Hana entered with a tablet in her hands. Admiral, the Galactic Council has officially requested your presence. They want you to address the assembly. Tai-ho nodded slowly. I expected as much. When? Tomorrow. A transport is waiting. Very well. He turned away from the map. How is Captain Duyun? Hana smiled slightly. Recovering. The doctors say he will be ready for active duty within a week. He has been promoted to fleet commander. Your recommendation. He earned it. He flew into certain death to deliver a warning. That kind of courage deserves recognition. The next day, Taiho boarded a transport ship and made the long journey to the Galactic Council headquarters. The station was massive, a floating city in space where representatives from hundreds of species gathered to discuss matters of galactic importance. When Taiho arrived, he found himself the center of attention. Aliens of every shape and size watched him as he walked through the corridors. Some looked at him with respect, others with fear, a few with open hatred. He did not blame any of them. The council chamber was a great, circular room with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. When Taiho stepped onto that platform, he faced representatives from over 200 species. Among them, he saw Elder Malos sitting in a place of honor. The elder rose to speak first. Members of the council, we gathered today to discuss the events at Earth 3 months ago. A fleet of 3,000 Kelthari warships was completely destroyed by a human weapon. Over 2 million soldiers were killed. The Kelthari Dominion has been fundamentally weakened, and humanity has revealed itself as a power unlike any we have encountered. Murmurs filled the chamber. We have invited Admiral Park Taiho of Earth to address the council. He commanded the human forces during the battle. He gave the order to fire the weapon. He carries the weight of what happened. The elder turned to Taiho. Admiral, the floor is yours. Taiho stepped forward. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of species he had never seen before. Then he began to speak. I will not apologize for what I did. The murmurs grew louder. He waited for them to quiet. I will not apologize because I had no choice. The Kelthari came to Earth with 3,000 warships. They demanded our surrender. They threatened to burn our world and kill every human alive. We tried to negotiate. We warned them. We demonstrated our weapon and begged them to leave. His voice grew harder. They refused. Their commander, Varth Prime, was too proud to retreat, too arrogant to accept that a small species like humanity could threaten him. He ordered his fleet to attack even after we showed him what we could do. He paused, letting the silence stretch. So yes, I gave the order. I fired the weapon. And I would do it again, because my duty is to protect my people. My duty is to ensure that humanity survives. And I will not sacrifice human lives to spare the feelings of those who come to destroy us. A Kelthari representative in the council stood up. Taiho recognized him as a member of the civilian government, not the military. You speak of protection, but you committed genocide. You erased millions of our people. How can you stand there and claim any moral ground? Taiho turned to face him directly. Your fleet came to commit genocide against us. The difference is that we gave you a choice. We warned you. We begged you to leave. We fired a demonstration and killed only a portion of your forces, hoping the rest would see reason. His voice dropped low. Your soldiers could have retreated. Your commanders could have overruled Varth Prime. 12 ships did exactly that, and we let them go. They are alive today because they chose life over pride. He looked around the chamber. Humanity does not seek war. We do not want to conquer or dominate or destroy. We want to live in peace with our neighbors. We want to trade, to explore, to learn. But we will not be threatened. We will not be bullied. And we will not surrender to anyone who thinks they can take what is ours. Elder Malos spoke again. Admiral, what would you say to species who now fear humanity, who wonder if Earth might one day turn its weapon on them? Taiho considered the question carefully. I would say this. The Erasure Protocol exists because the galaxy is dangerous, because species, like the Kalthari, believe that strength gives them the right to take whatever they want. We built this weapon not to conquer, but to make sure we could never be conquered. He spread his hands. We will never fire it against anyone who does not threaten us first. We will never use it for conquest or revenge. It exists only as a final option, a last resort when all other choices have failed. If you come to Earth as friends, you have nothing to fear from us. If you come to Earth as enemies, you will face the same choice we gave the Kalthari: turn back or be erased. A long silence followed. Then, slowly, representatives began to nod. Not all of them, not even most of them, but enough. After the council session ended, Tejo found a quiet observation deck overlooking the stars. He stood there alone, watching the distant lights of ships coming and going from the station. Footsteps approached. He turned to find Sindar standing behind him. She looked different than she had on the Kalthari command. Ship, thinner, older. The recordings she had made had become the most important historical documents in Kalthari history, and the burden of carrying that truth showed on her face. "Admiral," she said quietly, "I wanted to speak with you before you left." Tejo nodded. "Second Commander." "Not anymore. I resigned from the military after I returned home." She moved to stand beside him, looking out at the stars. "I wanted to thank you." "Thank me?" "I killed millions of your people. You tried to save them." She turned to face him. "I watched from my ship as the wave passed. I saw everything disappear. And I kept asking myself, what if Vorath Prime had listened? What if he had turned the fleet around after the demonstration? Those soldiers would still be alive. Their families would still be whole." She took a shaky breath. "The fault is not yours, Admiral. The fault is ours. We built an empire on the belief that we were stronger than everyone else. We never learned to respect other species. We never learned to recognize when we were wrong." Tears formed in her eyes. "You taught us that lesson. The price was terrible, but the lesson will never be forgotten." She pulled a small data chip from her pocket and pressed it into his hand. "My recordings. I want you to have them. Share them with your people. Let them see what happens when pride blinds us to truth. Let them learn from our mistakes." Tejo accepted the chip. "What will you do now?" "Go home. Teach. Make sure the next generation of Kalthari understands what happened here." She managed a small smile. "We will never threaten Earth again, Admiral. I will make certain of that." She bowed slightly, then walked away. Tejo watched her go. Then he looked down at the chip in his hand. A record of death and destruction. A warning for future generations. He thought about the children on Earth, playing in parks, unaware of the horror that had passed us so close. He thought about the soldiers who had died, both human and Kalthari. He thought about the weight of command, the burden of being the one who had to make impossible choices. Then he straightened his shoulders and walked toward the transport that would take him. Home. Earth was waiting, and there was still work to do. 1 year later, the Kalthari Dominion officially signed a non-aggression treaty with Earth. It was the first treaty they had ever signed with a species they once considered inferior. 5 years later, human ships began exploring sectors of the galaxy that had been forbidden to them before. They were met with caution, sometimes with fear, but always with respect. 10 years later, children across the galaxy learned about the day humanity stood firm. They learned about the warning that was given and ignored. They learned about the choice that led to erasure, and they learned a saying that had spread from species to species, a warning passed down through generations. Never corner a human. They do not just fight back. They make certain you can never fight again. In his retirement home on Earth, an old man named Park Tai-ho sat in a garden, watching the sun set over mountains that had stood for millions of years. He was tired now, his body warm by time and duty. But his eyes were still sharp, still watching, still protecting. His granddaughter ran up to him, laughing, and climbed into his lap. "Grandfather, tell me a story." He smiled and wrapped his arms around her. "What kind of story do you want to hear?" "A story about being brave." Tejo looked up at the stars that were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, species were living in peace because humanity had proven that strength and mercy could exist together. That warning those who threaten you is better than destroying them without a word. "Once upon a time," he began, "there was a small blue planet in a very large galaxy.